Let's talk about Grand Admiral Thrawn, who he is and what he will do when we finally see him appear in Star Wars Ahsoka and perhaps beyond that series. For those of you who don't know about Thrawn by now, let me briefly reiterate why this Star Wars character is probably my favorite villain or anti-hero. Grand Admiral Thrawn first appears in a series of novels by Timothy Zahn that takes place about 5 years after the Battle of Endor, and Thrawn is delightfully unusual in several ways. First, he is an alien called a Chiss with blue skin and glowing red eyes. It is highly unusual for non-humans to achieve rank in the Imperial Navy, especially to that of Grand Admiral. Thrawn uses his enemies' psychology against them to defeat them. He gets in their heads by studying their culture, history, and art, especially their art. He puts together a grand plan like discovering pieces of a giant puzzle and then executes the plan only when he feels the timing is perfect. Now, other than several Thrawn novels, let's recap what we've seen and heard of Thrawn so far as it pertains to what we will eventually see on screen. In the animated Star Wars Rebels series, Thrawn was a recurring antagonist. He could outsmart, trap, and defeat the rebels frequently, and by the end of it all, Thrawn is only defeated because of Ezra's Force-sensitive relationship with the Purgles, which are mysterious space-dwelling creatures. Just as Thrawn is mercilessly bombarding Lothal, which is Ezra's homeworld, the Purgles attack Thrawn's fleet and pull his Star Destroyer into hyperspace to places unknown. Fast forward several years later, after the Empire has been defeated, and there are whispers of Thrawn's plan as we see in The Mandalorian, but they are impatiently waiting for him, and somewhat divided about their loyalty to Thrawn because, well, he isn't there. By the time of Star Wars Ahsoka, everyone is looking for Thrawn. Ahsoka is trying to find him because she knows how dangerous he is, and Ezra Bridger, the Jedi apprentice, was last seen with him. In the new series Ahsoka, the Imperials and the two mysterious Force users who seem to be former Jedi also seem to be obsessed with finding Thrawn. As they say, it will bring war for some and great power for others. We know by the end of the first two episodes of Ahsoka that Thrawn and Ezra have actually traversed all the way to another galaxy in some strange hyperspace route that is known to some ancients. So that being said, what will Thrawn do when he returns? And here are the other questions that we are burning to ask. Number one, why are the Imperials so intent on finding Thrawn rather than rebuilding the Empire on their own? Number two, is Thrawn trapped with no ability to communicate with the home galaxy? Number three, is Ezra Bridger with Thrawn and working against him or with him? Number four, when Thrawn reemerges, will he be as clever as he is in the novels? And the sub-question to four is, will he be an anti-hero or an evil villain or what? Question 5. Will he have the industrial and military resources to take on the New Republic in a war? And if not, how will he acquire them? Basically, what's his plan? Question number 1. Why is everyone so intent on finding Thrawn? Obviously, many think that the only remaining Grand Admiral is the best hope for restoring the Empire. Thrawn's position about the Empire is that it's a stable and orderly government, and I'm sure many people would stand to benefit from a return to the Empire, although many others would not. More importantly, why is the former Jedi Baylan and the Night Sister Elsbeth so anxious to find him? After all, Thrawn is not known to have much of an affinity for Force users. Baylan says it's about power. My theory is that Thrawn knows of some source of Force power that will greatly enhance these Force users. I don't know if anyone remembers these old games known as Jedi Knight, where the Valley of the Jedi was a lost source of great power to enhance Force users. Perhaps they have written an equivalent to the Valley of the Jedi, and only Thrawn knows how to find it. This could be a means for the Empire to artificially produce powerful Force users. Basically, we can predict that Thrawn has the key to more power that a Force user would want. Question 2. Is Thrawn trapped with no possibility of communications to the Imperial Remnant? No, I don't think so, but I believe the communication is somewhat unreliable or difficult in some way. It seems that towards the end of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Captain Pelion seemed to be the one doing all the communicating on Thrawn's behalf, which tells me that Thrawn's contact is very limited. And it could also be that Thrawn has no contact at all, but he has a contingency plan in place for the fall of the Empire, or even predicted the downfall of Palpatine. He probably left several contingency plans with his most trusted officers depending on the situation. which is why Paleon seems so insistent that they all stick to the plan when conferring with Moff Gideon. Question 3. Is Ezra with Thrawn, and is he working for him or against him? There's a silly rumor going around that they are pulling a Thrawn legacy here, and that this helmeted acolyte of Balin is in fact Ezra in disguise. I don't think so. It's too predictable. I believe Ezra is firmly trapped in the other galaxy. The only way he would probably get back is by using the Purgles or asking the Purgles to take him back. If that's the case, he probably could have done so at any moment, and he would have come right back and contacted Ahsoka or Sabine. Furthermore, this would mean that Ezra would be working for Thrawn. I find this unlikely, as Thrawn did try to bombard Lothal, which is Ezra's homeworld. You just don't forgive someone for something like that. However, if Ezra has remained trapped with Thrawn in the other galaxy, the only way I can see Ezra working with him is out of necessity. If and when Ezra is finally found, it will probably be in a moment when he is really needed, and I believe he will come in to save the day at a key moment. Question 4. When Thrawn reemerges, will he be as clever as Thrawn in the novels by Timothy Zahn? We can only hope that Dave Filoni's version of Thrawn will be every bit as cunning and intelligent as Timothy Zahn's Thrawn. However, the Thrawn we got in Star Wars Rebels, although certainly formidable, was not quite Timothy Zahn's Thrawn. I would expect this Thrawn to be more villainous and brutal. The Thrawn in the novels was not quite so brutal, and he was not so much about destroying the enemy but merely defeating them. He could then get what he left of the assets of the defeated foe to work with him or for him. For example, I'm not so sure Zahn's Thrawn would have bombarded Lothal. Perhaps, but it doesn't seem like the original Thrawn's style. We also do not know if this new Thrawn is a villain or an anti-hero. In other words, is Thrawn going to act out of malice, or is there a logical reason for everything he does? Perhaps he believes the galaxy would be safer under Imperial rule with a vast military-industrial complex to face some other threat, while the New Republic is too flaccid and disorderly for Thrawn's taste. Question 5. Will Thrawn have the military resources to fight the New Republic? While it is true that the New Republic has been scrapping Star Destroyers and disassembling anything that reminds them of the Empire, it is still a vast undertaking for a few underground Imperial warlords, especially without the planetary infrastructure that the New Republic currently holds. In the original Thrawn trilogy, the New Republic's military was not so anemic, but Thrawn would find ways to fill out these military resources, and the Imperial remnant did hold some planets of their own. In the original Thrawn trilogy, he ultimately rebuilt his military in 3 ways. First, he was able to find Emperor Palpatine's secret storehouse and unlock Sparty cloning or fast cloning technology. These clones would be used to crew his ships or fight his troops. Second, he needed a bigger fleet. The Dark Force, or Katana fleet, was the lost fleet of Old Republic dreadnoughts, about 200 of them. These weren't as formidable as Star Destroyers, but they could seriously fill in the gaps in Thrawn's own fleet. The third element was taking systems but leaving their industrial capacity intact. Thrawn was an expert at taking resources from the enemy without destroying them, and then using them for himself. The modern Thrawn will need an equivalent to these 3 elements. There is a rumor going around that the Night Sisters' magic, perhaps through Elsbeth, will zombify dead Imperials, and these will solve Thrawn's personnel problems. On its face, this sounds kind of ridiculous, but perhaps there is a force-based means of Thrawn acquiring troops. In the Thrawn trilogy, it was the insane Dark Jedi Master C'baoth who was able to coordinate Thrawn's clones as if sharing one mind. Perhaps Elsa is the equivalent of Master C'baoth, and she will be doing something. As for the Imperial fleet, well, either Thrawn will find something like the Katana fleet, or maybe there are hidden shipyards throughout the galaxy. Perhaps this was part of Thrawn's original plan, to have these military assets already set up and ready to go in case they were needed. But the Empire, as far as we know, does not hold any major planets with an industrial base such as Kuat or Corellia, so as of now we really have no idea how Thrawn will get his fleet, and I fear the writers are not thinking about this either. There is another possibility, and that is that the New Republic disassembles these Star Destroyers, and their most vital parts are being smuggled out. As we have already sort of seen, And perhaps the only thing the Empire needs to rebuild their fleets are some basic materials that could be sourced anywhere. It seemed that there are many aspects of the New Republic that are weak and incompetent, therefore it could be that the Imperial fleet is being rebuilt right under everyone's noses. So overall, I'm very curious how my predictions will play out. I'm often pretty good at this kind of thing. Tell me in the comments if you agree with these predictions or what yours are. So regarding the channel everyone, so far my supporters on Patreon are slowly growing, but are an elite small percentage of my overall subscriber base. But I would really like to thank the newcomers to patreon.com/resurrected. In August, so far, it's Jeff Hallam, Kirk A, and Rayan Andaleo. Also going forward into September, I'm ready to do something high quality. I'm thinking it's time to stop hesitating and go ahead and start production on a Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan battle breakdown. I don't know how long it will take, but it won't take months on end, and I'm sure it will do well when it comes out. But in the meantime, I appreciate fans and supporters who stick with me. However, also part of me really wants to make my own CG model and breakdown of a New Republic E-Wing starfighter, since we've recently seen it in Ahsoka. But feel free to comment about that. I have a lot of other ideas I'd love to get y'all's opinion on, so subscribe and I might be making some polls or questionnaires in the community section of my channel. And stay tuned for next time, space friends.